The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everybody, to our first Grasping Opportunities session. And we're so excited that you all decided to join us today. We are going to be talking with Richard Gardner, Chief Operating Officer of Canadian Lodging Solutions, and discussing, the successes of his TMC with different processes and also especially with a virtual payment program, our GrassPay program. We wanted to welcome Richard today. We are going to be doing these grasp sessions hopefully once a month. They'll be 30 minutes in length. They'll be on different successes that we're seeing with customers and exciting things that we think that the marketplace would be interested to hear about. And, just want to, give our industry good news and good things that technology is bringing to the table as well, and good processes. So, Richard, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. And I'm Stacy Mack. I'm Senior Sales Director for Grasp Technology for Virtual Payments. So just want to give you a welcome as well. But Richard, thank you for being a part of this, especially for our first one. So we really appreciate that.
Great. Happy to be here. Hello, everybody.
Well, what I'd like you to do is if you could do me a favor and tell the audience a little bit more about you and your background in the travel industry.
Sure. It's a long story, so I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. I've been in the travel business 20 plus years now, I think, which is hard to believe. Started all back in, I think, one of the last biggest crisis was the Canada 3000 thing for some of you Canadian people that remember that. That was about when I started in this business. So problems and strife in the business seems to be the way that this always goes, which is kind of good because it helps us to push forward with new solutions and new ideas, which is what I like to think that I've been really good at, ever since I started in travel, is finding technologies and products and services that will help us to make the process better for our clients and make it easier for my salespeople to go out and sell the products and services that we have to offer. And things like GrassPay and the Grass products in general have been a really good solution that we've been able to take out to our clients and do that. So as my career evolved, I got more and more involved in the technology side of things, and that's where my forte, I think, really was developing new products and services that would work in the travel business and bring value to both the agency and the clients themselves. So kind of the brief history there.
Yeah, and your current company, Canadian Lodging Solutions, is one of GrassPay's, fantastic clients. You were actually one of the first clients of, GrassPay in general. You were a Grass reporting client of ours and came to us, in discussions of our virtual pay offering. And, about 5 years ago, we were in discussions with you on bringing GrassPay on board with the TMC you were part of at that time. And so in doing that, was there, a thought process in wanting to see what else was in the marketplace? There were certainly solutions, and we know why we created, GrassPay. We thought there was a better, solution to be had out there in process. But any thoughts around that?
Yeah, we when we heard about this new thing, I'm always excited about the new stuff that's coming out, and this new thing was virtual payment. And I'd actually experienced virtual payment in a previous life many years ago, as a way of paying for products and services that were being purchased by another business that I was in. So I'd heard of the concept. I didn't really deal with it myself because we had, accounting people and all that to deal with all that. But I was, vaguely familiar with the concept, and I saw where this would be a huge value in the travel industry. Of course, travel is quite complex, so there was going to be lots of roadblocks to break through. But that's the kind of stuff that always excited me. It was to get in at the front of something and to help help develop and give some influence on how these products and services were gonna work, because there always has to be that front line, let's call it, perspective on these things, because developers and people like that in the background, they think, oh, this, let's build this and it'll work this way and it'll be great. But that isn't always the case. So to be able to have some influence on how these products and services are developed is what really excites me. And that's why, when I heard you guys were developing this, and based on our previous history, I thought this would be a great opportunity to get involved with this and really, make this a product that was going to be much more user friendly on the travel side, the travel agency side, but also on the client side. And that's what really drew me into this with GrassPay, is how do we make a better mousetrap, so to speak, and make this more user friendly for everybody.
Yeah, perfect. And we so appreciate your business in a lot of different products for our company. And because you are a client, we talk often, and I want to talk a bit about your success of recent and the gain of new business. Since we do talk often, I was really intrigued by our conversations during March and April and May, very challenging times in our industry. And, we're seeing a lot of things that were just unfortunate and continually to be unfortunate, for different avenues in the industry. But when you and I would talk, there was a lot of great things going on in your business, and it was really intriguing to me. So I wanted to find out more. What were you all doing? What were you doing? What was your team doing that was gaining that? And I thought after you and I talked about it, it would be great for an industry audience to hear more about. So I kind of want to get into a little bit about, what you've been doing in the last, we'll say 6 months, that's really, gained new clients and successes.
Yeah, it's been an interesting time for sure. And, there's always, I think, two ways that people and companies go when stuff like this happens. It's you either just turtle in and pull everything in and decide to wait it out, or you take advantage of the opportunity, let's call it, even though it doesn't seem like one, to kind of do some self-assessment internally and see what are we doing, why are we doing it, how are we doing it, and then asking ourselves, what value does this bring to our company and our people in the company, but also, what is the value proposition for our clients? And because that's what drives everything. And that's what we did, kind of at the beginning of all of this in March, was to take a step back and say, okay, let's relook at what we're doing and why we're doing it, and think about how does this benefit us and how does this benefit the client? And then from that, inward looking analysis that we did, that helped us to kind of redefine our value proposition, so to speak, and put together, some discussion points and some talk points about, how to re-engage with maybe some of our existing clients, but more importantly, how to engage with new clients on bringing something new and different to their world that they may or may not be aware of. And, especially in the case of virtual payment, I think everybody knows that it's still relatively new, and a lot of people aren't aware of what it is, how it works, and why it works. So it's really about, for lack of a better term, dumbing it down so that, you can talk to somebody, in a very short period of time, because people don't seem to have a lot of time to talk, but getting the concepts across to them so that they understand why this could benefit them. And then what that does is that just opens up the door to create more opportunity with them. And so we did that process internally, and then started to think about, well, now how are we going to apply this? Because, again, everybody is not in active mode, let's call it. Lots of companies
Right.
were kind of in holding patterns and whatever. So we thought, well, we just got to give this a try, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
think about the sensitivities that are there and whatever. And we were actually quite surprised that, with the right approach, we actually found it easier to get a hold of people right now because they're not as busy doing the day-to-day stuff that they were doing. and then it opened the door to have more conversations about, what do we offer, why is this of value, and this whole concept of the virtual payment especially. It really solves a lot of problems that companies have, and we've seen that they have an opportunity now, because they were doing the same things that we've been doing, is taking an internal look at their processes and what they do, and they saw how this would fit in with their business. So that really created opportunities for us to start having dialogue with new clients and getting people's attention. And that's where it all evolved. And at the beginning, it all started with just phone calls and emails and that kind of stuff. Even that seemed to be relatively successful, more successful than we thought it would be. It's that whole concept of just reaching out to people. They're not going to come to you, so you've got to reach out and start that process and the dialogue. And we found that people were quite receptive to having that dialogue. And now we're starting to see that people are even open to having face-to-face meetings. Funny enough, we were quite surprised by that, and but we're seeing an uptake in that too. And of course, you got to be sensitive to their personal situations, so we don't we're not out there to push that on anybody, but we leave it up to them. If they want to meet us in person, then we're happy to go out and have those conversations with them. And it's been quite amazing to see how many people are really open to that now. So I think that's been the biggest revelation is just asking the question if they want to meet, or if they're fine just continuing on dealing with phone and email, and Zoom and WebEx and whatever other products are out there to use to have those kind of meetings. But it's don't be afraid to ask, in a polite and respectful way, and having something to offer them. That's the other key, right? You got to make sure that you've actually got something to talk to them about to keep their interest. So that's where we've had really good success lately in getting all of this going. We've turned a problem into an opportunity, so to speak.
Which is so exciting to hear. And really not even just from a travel agency perspective, but to be honest with you, from a salesperson perspective. When you and I first started to get into this conversation, I sat back as a salesperson and said, wow, these are things that a lot of salespeople probably need to be hearing right now.
Yeah.
Because people, might be nervous to pick up the phone and call a prospect because they don't want having the response be, are you, hey, do you know what's going on, and what have you, and knowing that people are more softer to that. They're willing to have the conversation. They have time to listen. They have time to process making a decision. I think that's some really great things to hear and interesting things to hear, even as a sales perspective. But having something good to say, I think, is also a very valid point. Is that having the value proposition firmed up, having really something really well formulated to present to them, so the conversation is well worth their time. And I think that's also a really important point. So, and also, was there a way that you decided to target certain companies? Was there anything on that was important to you?
Yeah, the other thing when we did this internal self-analysis was, it's always a good opportunity to take a look at your client list and say, who are we doing business with now? How are those businesses doing? Because they're all, even through all this, there's still people that are, busy and doing things and having their own successes. So it was a matter of, looking at that list and saying, well, who is still doing okay? Who's still, in comparison to everybody else, right? Because some businesses have been really hit hard by this, and other businesses maybe not so much. So it was taking that, our own client list and looking at it and saying, where is there still opportunity with our existing clients, but then taking that knowledge and saying, well, if they're doing okay, there's other people that are also in that same kind of business. Maybe this is an opportunity to go out and talk to some people that we've never talked to before and who are in those same industries, and and having the discussion with them and talking about the value that you're bringing to, other clients in similar situations. And because now, you've got, again, something to talk to them about. You understand their problems, you understand their challenges, because, even though they're competing businesses, they still have the same problems and needs for solutions. And having something to bring to them was also really important. And that's why, taking that internal look at our own client list and saying, are we too heavy in one area and not enough in another? Diversifying that list a little bit more now, because you have a little more opportunity to take a closer look at that and take advantage of that. And that's where we've also had some good success is making that determination and that analysis about, who's doing what and where is the opportunity sit, because there's no point going after industries that aren't doing well, right? So
Sure.
Go find the ones now that are doing well, and you can see that in your own client list. It's not like that's rocket science if you really take a look at it. They're all down. We all know that, but some are down more than others, I guess.
Yeah, and
so that's been really good.
We're seeing some good news too. I mean, I was on a call last week with on an airline payment side, and it was interesting. Their statistics were very similar to these statistics that on our volume. That the bottom out was definitely in April. But then there was an uptick in May, and then an additional uptick in June. And so that seems to be across the board the positive news, right? So I think that's something that we're hopefully going to continue to see. In our case, in GrassPay, we saw 103% increase from April to June, which we were extremely excited about. But I think it's a good point in what you're saying is that finding the businesses that are having successes or not as devastating of falls, and I think it's important for people on the line to hear these kinds of good news, that there's opportunity out there to be had, and we are seeing people that are willing to meet face to face, because if we all start to be able to get together with people, if they're comfortable and we're comfortable, and that continues to grow as safety features in meeting centers continue to happen, we're enhancing our own industry. It starts potentially maybe with us. So I think that's an exciting thing that you said, that you reached out to some face-to-face meetings and you got some positive feedback on that. I don't know if I would have assumed that by any stretch. I would, so I think that's really exciting to hear.
Yeah, and we're always, it's human nature to be afraid to ask sometimes, and that's I think the learning from this is, as long as you're asking in a nice, respectful way and leaving it open to them making the decision, I think that's been really helpful in making that all happen. Because believe me, they'll tell you if they're not prepared to meet face to face.
Sure.
So you don't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Like I said, it's been surprising how many people have been open to that. So it's been a good news thing.
And
Sure.
another thing that I thought was interesting is I was on that same call. They had a company called Beyond AML that had done some analytics for the last handful of months, and for corporations for 2020, and they said about 64% of them responded that they would be willing to make process changes, policy changes, if it was worth getting to good data. And so this might be something we could maybe lead into, value proposition that you all bring to the table when it comes to when you're talking about, your virtual pay program to the corporations, and some of the reporting that you're going to offer to them. And I think one of the things I thought was really great is the timeliness of reconciliation.
Yeah, and I think that's been huge, because again, as companies are doing their own internal reflections, this is an opportunity for them to deal with some of the inadequacies of their internal processes, and that's something that we've been able to talk to people about, because they have more time to talk to you about it, right? And there's always everybody out there that's in sales, even though I'm on the operations and the technology side, is actively involved in the selling cycle, and we know that people, they think that they already know that they know what their problems are, and
Right.
until you start having those conversations with them about,
Sure.
well, tell me really what your problems are, and then there's solutions that we all have that can help deal with that, and that's where we've really had a lot of success lately, is talking to the finance people and the accounting people about how those processes work and what their challenges are, and then once they open up to you about that, there's solutions that we have that can help them deal with those problems, and now's the time to deal with that stuff, because those people have the time to make the changes. And that's been another, really great revelation that we found, is that, being able to solve those kind of problems, if you get those finance people on your side, that's a lot of good glue that can really help develop a relationship, or help strengthen a relationship with an existing client, that you're solving some of their problems. And that's where, between the combination of GRASP reporting and especially the virtual payment side, this really solves a lot of problems that these clients are having internally, with the way that they're dealing with payment for products and services that they're doing, and the way their people are dealing with hotels and airfare and other things. There's a solution that can fix problems, and that's what this has really been good for us to learn about, but more importantly to educate our clients about, is how this will help them and how it's going to save them time and money.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, when you talk about timely reconciliation, t- just a bit of a detail on, with GrassPay, just for the audience, if for any of you that aren't familiar with the offering, we have an integrated reporting portal that you're able to use and run reporting, and our reconciliation report drills down to a lot of detail, up to 99 units. And for that, it can really give the corporation a lot of exciting view onto general ledger or department information, cost center, profit center. And so in talking about that, is there, we will synchronize the data nightly. And I think that's where the timeliness will come in, is that the reporting can be batched and run nightly, and be very, very accurate on any changes and things of that sort. Is there any other items on the timeliness that you'd want to add here?
Yeah, that's been one of the real key features to this, and that's been what's been missing in other ways that companies have been, historically paying for travel, is they're usually relying on the travelers or somebody's admin assistant or whoever it is to go through the process of, reconciling their payment facility that they're using, whether it's their own personal card, which is probably the worst solution, but even with the P cards and the Ghost cards, there's a lot of reconciliation and processing that the end user has to do in order to make that information relevant for the finance departments. And that's been the big selling feature for this with finance, is that they're now dealing with information that's much more timely, because they can see the transactions as they're happening. So they know that from the TMC side, they can see that we're issuing cards and providing forms of payments, but then they can also see when those forms of payments are actually used and transacted, and when they're finalized. So they have a much cleaner and much more timely history of what is going on at any given time. And even more importantly, it's all about, we've all dealt with the fraud side of things. I don't know if you have a slide coming up about that.
But I do.
Yeah.
My mind here.
Reading your mind.
Yeah, I'll go right here.
But that's the other thing, along with that whole reconciliation piece, now that they can see things in a much more timely manner, they can manage the fraud side of things much more efficiently, because now they're not dealing in a world where, if they're dealing with a Ghost card or P cards or whatever other way that they're paying for things. If something goes wrong, as we all know, the client now is coming to us as the TMC and saying, I've got a problem, you need to fix it, even though it's not our problem when it's their own ghost card or whatever. Now they're relying on us to carry, invoicing for them till they get a new credit card, or to move stuff to other forms of payment, because now this card has been compromised and they need to get a new card and they get that all distributed to everybody. That's another huge value proposition for, the virtual payment process is, you're dealing with single transactions now. So if a card gets compromised, and it still happens, you're never going to get away from that. But now you can deal with it, virtually instantly, because part of the whole process, for those that aren't familiar with virtual payment, is you can assign industry coding to the payment itself. So if somebody takes a virtual card and tries to buy gas with it at a gas station, and it was assigned a hotel, well, right away it's gonna decline, and you get notified that that payment tried to go through, and it wasn't for an approved vendor, and right away you're aware that something happened, and you can deal with it right at that particular time, as opposed to 2 weeks or a month later when you get a statement and you see that something's gone through that you weren't aware of. So that, again, bringing value and bringing something new and interesting to the company to help them manage their business better, that's where we're bringing value to the client with these kinds of products and services. And it's just having that conversation with them about their problems and getting them to open up about it. Every company has this issue. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. In the JP Morgan, there was a payments and fraud study. They do this every year, but even in their 2020 study from the 2019, statistics, seeing how prevalent fraud is, and the 81% of finance professionals state that their companies were victims of payments fraud, and 5% of revenue each year they lose to fraud. So you're absolutely right, and we're seeing, unfortunately, hoteliers from time to time have data breach. Well, if there's a ghost card sitting there, that's compromised. Or if there's a corporate card for one of the employees, that's compromised when these hoteliers systems will be breached. I mean, I've got a couple examples there. Marriott's breach in 2019, was one of the largest breaches in history. So it's definitely, unfortunately, possible. And I think we're seeing a lot of articles now today that because there's a lot of people with a lot of time on their hands, fraud's going to be even more prevalent, unfortunately.
Oh, for sure.
And one of the things I just want to show too is some, other, this was a part of their study as well, the different types of payments. And, you'd think checks, but there are, in TMCs today, there are corporations today that sometimes do manage the businesses by using checks. And that is a huge no. I mean, because that you can see right here, 74% is when the fraud can happen. And then you can see 34% on commercial credit cards or corporate credit cards. So, we really can see here where those, past form of payments that were very popular are being replaced, but the replacement of them is really firming up that security for the client. I wanted to just pause. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, that's there's lots of good discussion that can be had about this. We could spend an hour talking about it.
Right. Well, I just wanted to give a bit of opportunity in case there were any questions in the chat. I know that there might have been any attendees that might have wanted to give some questions to Richard or I on anything that we discussed. Would be happy to field any questions. I know that I've got our marketing director, our Peter CBO, on the line. I don't know, Peter, were there any chat questions that came in?
Only one, kind of a small one. It's just checking to see if there's a charge for this service for GrassPay.
In many cases, there is not. We do not charge a transaction fee in many cases. So it's also going to be a cost savings offering for your corporate account. Well, Richard, thank you so much for joining us, today. I felt this was really helpful for me when you and I were having a discussion, and I thought it would be such a great session to bring to the marketplace, give great suggestions, and also, put a little spotlight on a solution of ours that we're proud of, and in showing how it is doing some good in the marketplace as well.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you all for being here. We really appreciate all of your time and attention. And my name is Stacy Mack from Grasp Technologies. I'm STACEY at grasptech.com. So please don't hesitate to send me an email with any questions that you might have, or contact any of us at Grasp, and we will certainly be willing to assist you in any of your needs. So thanks, everybody. Take care. Be safe.
Thank you.